The sun rose over the Ethiopian highlands, and with it, the fate of an empire hung in the balance. Across jagged mountains and misty valleys, a small African nation prepared to face a modern European army, a force that believed victory was already theirs. Yet, by the end of that day, history would remember not the invaders, but the king who crushed them. This is the story of Menelik II and the Battle of Adwa, a clash where strategy, courage, and unity turned the impossible into reality. In the late 19th century, Europe was in a frenzy. Britain, France, and Germany carved Africa into colonies, claiming gold, ivory, and land with ruthless efficiency. Italy, young and eager, wanted its own empire, and Ethiopia was its prize. But Ethiopia was no ordinary target. A proud kingdom, its roots stretched back to the legendary Queen of Sheba. Its people were warriors, skilled in defending their mountains and valleys, and unlike much of Africa, Ethiopia had never fallen to foreign rule. At the center of this defiance stood Menelik II, born Salai Mariam in 1844. A prince from the southern highlands, he grew up in a world of rival lords and shifting alliances. At 18, he was imprisoned in the mountain fortress of Magdala, a decade of captivity meant to break him. Yet, Menelik did not waver. Behind those stone walls, he studied strategy, observed his enemies, and learned patience, a skill that would one day turn the tables on Europe. When a daring night raid freed him, Menelik returned to Shewa, uniting warriors, forging alliances, and preparing Ethiopia for the storm to come. By 1889, crowned King of Kings, he set out to modernize the nation, acquiring rifles and artillery from across Europe, building roads through the mountains, and uniting Amhara, Tigray, Oromo, and other peoples under one banner. At his side stood Empress Titu Betul, fierce and brilliant, guiding diplomacy, leading troops, and ensuring Ethiopia's resolve was as strong as its warriors' arms. Together, they turned Ethiopia into a nation ready to face the mightiest army of the age. By 1895, the tension had reached a boiling point. Italy, having established footholds in Eritrea and Somalia, believed Ethiopia would fall like so many African nations before it. They had modern rifles, artillery, and the arrogance of a colonial power certain of victory. But they underestimated the man they were about to face. In 1889, Italy had signed the Treaty of Wuchale with Menelik II, a document meant to secure peace and trade. Yet, a dangerous deception lay within its pages. The Italian version declared Ethiopia a protectorate under Rome's control, while the Amharic text preserved Ethiopia's sovereignty. When Menelik discovered the ruse in 1893, he denounced it and prepared to defend his nation. Italy's army, led by General Oreste Baratieri, marched north. 17,000 troops, Italian regulars and Eritrean recruits, advanced with confidence, carrying artillery, machine guns, and the arrogance of an imperial power certain of victory. But they underestimated the man they were about to face.
In 1889, Italy had signed the Treaty of Wuchale with Menelik II, a document meant to secure peace and trade. Yet a dangerous deception lay within its pages. The Italian version declared Ethiopia a protectorate under Rome's control, while the Amharic text preserved Ethiopia's sovereignty. When Menelik discovered the ruse in 1893, he denounced it and prepared to defend his nation. Italy's army, led by General Oreste Baratieri, marched north. 17,000 troops, Italian regulars and Eritrean recruits advanced with confidence, carrying artillery, machine guns, and the certainty of imperial power. They faced a nation they assumed would crumble, unaware that Menelik had rallied a massive force of 80,000 to 100,000 warriors, armed not only with spears and shields, but with modern rifles and cannons, acquired through years of shrewd diplomacy. Menelik knew the land like no outsider ever could. Ethiopian scouts silently tracked the Italians' every movement, mapping their route through treacherous mountains and narrow passes. Meanwhile, Empress Tutu Bitul orchestrated the supply lines with precision, ensuring grain, ammunition, and water reached the front. Women carried pots of water across battlefields, dodging bullets and shrapnel, while thousands of warriors prepared to fight not for conquest, but for home and freedom. The Italians, pressured by Rome to achieve a swift victory, decided on a night march on February 28, 1896. Their army split into 3 brigades, moving through unfamiliar terrain with outdated maps, unaware that Menelik had already chosen the battlefield that would trap them. As dawn approached, the Ethiopian army took position across the hills and valleys near Adwa. Their generals, legends in their own right, commanded their troops with skill. Tigrayan warriors held the ridges, Oromo cavalry patrolled the flanks, and reserves from distant provinces were ready to pour in at a moment's notice. Menelik's strategy was simple yet devastating. Fight on his terms, in terrain that favored the defenders, and strike when the enemy was divided and vulnerable. As the first light of March 1st pierced the mist, the Italians stumbled into the trap. Brigades became separated in the maze of hills. Confused and fatigued, they were met by a torrent of Ethiopian warriors, firing from elevated positions, charging on horseback, and swarming the narrow valleys. Every mistake the Italians made was exploited. Every gap in their formation was filled by Menelik's relentless tide. The stage was set for one of the most decisive victories in African history. A day when a united, determined nation would defy a European power and turn the world's expectations upside down.
Dawn broke over the hills of Adwa on March 1st, 1896, and the air trembled with the roar of battle. Menelik's army, 80,000 strong, surged forward with precision, every movement orchestrated by a king who knew the land as well as he knew his people. The Italians, 17,000 men, divided and exhausted, had nowhere to turn. The first clash was brutal. Albertoni's brigade, separated from the others, ran straight into Tigrayan riflemen positioned on cliffs. Bullets tore through their ranks, while Ethiopian cavalry struck from the flanks, hooves pounding the earth. Artillery boomed, but the terrain trapped the Italians, their guns unable to dominate the battlefield. As chaos spread, Menelik committed his reserves. 25,000 warriors from distant provinces joined the fray, overwhelming Armandi's central brigade and Debera's right flank. The Italians' formations collapsed under relentless pressure. General Baratieri watched helplessly from a ridge as his army disintegrated, soldiers fleeing through narrow passes, while Ethiopian horsemen pursued them, turning cannons on their former owners. By noon, it was over. Over 6,000 Italians lay dead, 3,000 captured, including Generals Albertoni and Armandi. Ethiopia suffered losses as well, 7,000 warriors killed or wounded, but the victory was decisive. The Ethiopian flag flew high, a symbol of defiance and unity. Menelik's triumph was not only military genius, it was a declaration to the world. He had turned a fragmented continent's expectation on its head. The world watched in awe as an African nation had bested a European power. Italy's government collapsed, the stock market shook, and colonial ambitions were halted, if only temporarily. Menelik showed mercy,
treating prisoners humanely, ransoming them back to Italy, and stopping at Eritrea's border rather than pushing for conquest. In October 1896, the Treaty of Addis Ababa formally recognized Ethiopia's independence, securing its place as Africa's uncolonized jewel alongside Liberia. Menelik's legacy endured. Railways, schools, telegraphs, and the first cars in Ethiopia marked a nation embracing modernization without sacrificing freedom. Though challenges continued and future invasions came, Adwa's spirit fueled resistance and inspired generations. Today, the Battle of Adwa stands as Ethiopia's pride, a symbol of courage, unity, and strategic brilliance. Menelik II proved that vision, determination, and love for one's people can rewrite history, even against overwhelming odds. If you enjoyed this story of resilience and strategy, remember to like, share, and subscribe for more epic tales from the pages of history.